Thank you for joining us here at ChasingCinema.com's official podcast. Make sure to hit that subscribe button on iTunes so each week, every episode that Chasing Cinema produces, it goes automatically into your iTunes. That way you can transfer it over to your iPad, iPod, iPhone, Samsung Galaxy, whatever device you have and you are listening to podcasts to, make sure to do so. If you do not know, I am your host, Jacob Toronto, and I'm joined by my loyal faithful co-host / best friend,
Louis Corazzo.
And today is an important day for motion pictures because today was the Academy Awards for the 2014 film category. And now we are going to recap what happened. We're going to talk a little bit about how the awards went over. Since it was a near 4-hour-long show, this podcast might not be as long as you would like it to be, but because of its length, me and Louis are quite tired, but we're going to talk about it, and we don't want to give too much away regardless, because next week here on our podcast, it'll be mine and Louis' Chasing Cinema Choice Awards, where me and Louis have created a set of categories, and we will pick our winners, our nominees, and get to show talk about movies that we really gone in depth about. We haven't really talked about Birdman. We haven't really talked about Boyhood. We haven't really talked about a lot of films. So this is our opportunity. Louis, how do you feel about the Academy Awards? Before watching them, were you excited? How were you? Were you pumped up today?
Well, knowing me, you know that I'm a big awards show freak.
Yes.
Like, I love them all. I love, the celebrities. I love the winners and losers. I know I live off of that. So every year I do get excited, especially around the Golden Globes. Like, it starts getting me back into the award season mode. So coming into this Oscar week, of course I was excited. I was excited and anxious to see how Neil Patrick Harris would do as a host, because in recent years, if there's been one criticism for award shows, especially the Oscars, it's been the host. And I guess it's been a close race this year, so I was excited to see how it pans out, because, if you've been looking up online or hearing critics on TV, newspapers, it's been pretty divided between, either Birdman or Boyhood. So I was very excited and pumped to coming into the award show.
This year was easily one of the best years of film I think we've had in a very long time, because there were so many dominating movies. I'm not saying the years past have been bad for films, because we've had some really wonderful movies in the last 2 years that Louis and I have been doing, Chasing Cinema, but particularly this year because it has been so hard to choose certain winners. Sure, we had our gut feelings. Last week, if you tuned into the podcast, me and Louis went through all the categories and labeled our predictions, and we're going to get to that in just a moment, because one of us is the winner of that prediction game. But like Louis said, it's a great time. For us, it seems like the year goes into the following year. So for us, we've been still in 2014 up to this point, and even to next week, obviously, because we still have our Chasing Cinema Choice Awards. But it's great to get to this night. It is a pretty big night. Louis and I have gotten together for this probably the past 5-6 years, even before Chasing Cinema
in high school.
Was a thing. So we've been doing this for quite some time. But now me and Louis are going to recap the 2015 Oscars. 2015 Academy Awards show, which was hosted by Neil Patrick Harris. In the years past, as Louis said, a lot of the criticism has gone to the host, but the show in general has kind of had that lacking magical feel. Last year, I think Louis and I didn't talk too highly of the overall show, and this year, I don't want to say it was the best show ever. It wasn't the greatest Oscar show. It was okay. It had its issues. It went a really, really long time, like I said, a near 4 hours. So, Louis, tell us what you thought about this year's Academy Awards. What was your overall thought about everything?
I know. I'm sure in years back I felt the same way, but because this show is the most recent Oscars, it just felt like the longest Oscar in history. For some reason, the show kept dragging, and I got bored with it quickly. And, maybe it's because also watching the Grammys and watching that 3-hour show where there's only been like 3 awards presented the whole night, it gets frustrating. And for the first time in a while, I was frustrated with the whole award show, setup and execution. So I was getting pretty frustrated quick, but that's not to say Neil Patrick Harris did a bad job. I thought he did a great job. The opening number was dynamic,
Yeah, I really enjoyed the opening number.
Since he hosted the Tonys many times in the past, I'm happy they included a musical number, and I thought the musical number went over really well. He was great. He sang great. The inclusion of Anna Kendrick and Jack Black was welcoming. So it was good, but it just dragged on. And I know probably the most talked about thing from tonight, besides the winners and losers, will be the ongoing magic trick setup that Neil Patrick Harris kept mentioning throughout the night. And, if you know Neil Patrick Harris, you know he loves magic and he does plenty of tricks and he's a good magician himself. But I don't know if this was the right outlet for it, even though the ending, the reveal of the trick was pretty cool. And it was, pretty amazing how he read that off, but it just kept going over and over again. And as we kept looking at the clock and saying, no way, this is going to be over at 8:30. It's going to go over. It's going to go over. They could have cut a lot of this nonsense out, a lot of this extra stuff out, and just get to the award show. Because, for us, for film fans, or for any award show, music fans for Grammys, TV for Emmys, we want to see our celebrities, our favorite actors, actresses, and win or lose. We want to let them and their work speak for the night. We don't need the extra performances and I know, they do that for the big, viewing, points and the demographics to draw people who are not interested in film. I understand that, but for film lovers, it's kind of, just get to the point. Let the people speak. Let the winners speak instead of Neil Patrick Harris talking to the seat fillers.
Yeah, I think the problem is that, it's so weird to say, but these shows are exhausting because they're so repetitive, they're so long, they're such kind of like a build-up, and then, you're in 2.5 hours, and it starts to get tiring, and, even us people who love film, and most people will tell you, it does become kind of like exhausting. So that trick that Neil Patrick Harris does, just to come on, that was very cool, and, in a very interesting kind of different take. However, by the time he revealed his trick, everyone was just ready to go home. Everyone was ready just to turn it off and be done with the Oscars. So it probably didn't get to go over as well as it did. I thought he did a great job. I love Neil Patrick Harris. I think he's one of the most incredibly inviting and warming personalities on TV or film right now. But it's just the way that the content is set up, the way that the awards are laid out, is that it is a very long process. And, they do have to keep up changes. They don't want you just to hear speech after speech. However, it's frustrating when we're cutting these speeches or cutting people who have really something important to say. This person who has worked their years of their lives off, or even sometimes the majority of their life to make a project work or to create a project, and they want to say something or talk about something, and they get rushed off the stage so we can see, a song and dance between Neil Patrick Harris and, like you said, the seat fillers, or him and Steve Carell. Not that I mind that stuff. It just comes to a point where it starts taking over the importance of the awards. I'd much rather would like to have heard more of the filmmakers talk about certain things and talk about their feelings. Though sometimes presenters aren't great, or winners aren't great at really giving an award-winning speech or giving speeches that are interesting enough to keep your focus. But at the same time, I don't think it's fair that we're going to cut, where these people that we're appreciating tonight get cut short, get kicked off stage with this music, and we go back to something that's pretty juvenile, maybe not exactly what everyone's watching for. Again, nearly 4 hours is quite a long time. I myself also was kind of getting bored and anxious and just wanted to kind of get to the end of it. And it's not because the content is necessarily bad. It's just the way it's laid out, that it's so constant and so, a little bit aggravating, because they have these segments in there that could have been cut, like Louis said, or things that could have been done differently, and able to give us our information and filmmakers their opportunities a lot better. But they don't decide to do that. They just kind of let it go. And, what ends up getting hurt is the farther that this show goes along, the later parts get cut or they're cut down. So we have actresses and actors who have these speeches they want to deliver, but they don't get to deliver very long speeches. But overall, I think it was, it's a great award show. It is the most important night in Hollywood, so to speak. But at the end of the day, it's not always easy just to kind of sit there and watch 4 straight hours of it. So, but it's really tough. There is a lot of categories. There are over 20 categories. It's a lot to go through, and they want to make sure it's fun. They want to kind of keep the regular demographic interested in watching and wants them to see celebrities. But, after a while, it just kind of got old. So I'm not sure if it's just the formula in general that's kind of getting harder to sit through, or it was just tonight. I'm not particularly sure. But overall, I thought it was an okay show.
Yeah, I think it's getting played out, personally.
I think they need to change things up.
I do, but I don't know exactly how they will.
I don't either, but I think that it does follow a certain formula that they can switch up.
Yeah.
How, I do not know. It is a tough thing to kind of make as the most entertaining as possible. And, and it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be the greatest show in the world either. We understand what it is, but also we should respect what it is and make sure that the important things are handled and let the fun kind of happen as it goes along. If they want to do the smaller awards online and let that be like a broadcast feed, or things just to make it a little bit shorter, a little bit more condensed. Not saying that the best animated short or best documentary short isn't as important as the other categories. However, there is a demographic that they're trying to aim to. Most people have not seen those shorts, us included, for the majority of these films. So that's something to note. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to be the one, directing the Oscars and saying how it should be given, but I don't think I'm alone in saying that tonight was a bit long. I saw a lot of other filmmakers and people in Hollywood, celebrities, kind of complaining about the time and talking about a few issues they had. And I think it happens like that every year. So what can you do?
Wait for next year and sit through it again.
Yeah.
And watch it.
We'll see what happens.
And then complain afterwards again. It's a cycle.
So last week, Louis and I got together and went through the over 20 plus categories, and each one, Louis and I made a prediction. Which happens every year is that Louis and I make predictions. Whoever gets the most predictions correct is the champion of which. And Louis has won the last 2 years, and we'll reveal who won the third year after this. But first we're going to recap and talk about what happened at the Academy Awards. We're going to announce the winners. We're not going to talk about every category in depth. Like we said, we're trying to keep this a little bit short. If you sat through this and then you want to listen to us, you probably don't want to hear the same things over and over again, but we will give our commentary on some things. There are a lot of particular ones that I do want to talk about, but let's get started. Louis, why don't you get us off started with the first few categories?
Okay. Now I know our sheet is different from how the broadcast went in.
Yes.
So it's going to be a little different, guys, so bear with us. But let's start off right here. For the best animated feature film, it was an upset, and Big Hero 6 took home the best animated film, beating How to Train Your Dragon 2 and the other nominees.
And that is a huge shocker. I mean, I think that was one of the biggest shocks of the night for me. I was already tweeting, setting up for How to Train Your Dragon 2, and when I heard the Big Hero 6 won, I was pretty much in shock. I liked Big Hero 6, but I don't think it was anywhere near as good as a film as How to Train Your Dragon 2 was. Pretty shocked by that. Louis, do you have anything to say about that?
Yeah, I was definitely surprised. I think going into the Oscars, all the momentum was definitely in How to Train Your Dragon 2, and even for the non-Academy members and just fans alike, critics alike, people were speaking about How to Train Your Dragon much more than Big Hero 6.
Yeah, and it would be in a different direction because, it is a heavily dominated Disney category. Disney is usually always taking that award home. So it was an opportunity for DreamWorks to take the award home. And I guess not. Yeah, but I truly believe that How to Train Your Dragon deserved that award. And amongst that, like we talked about last week, I believe, the bigger shocker is that the Lego Movie wasn't nominated.
Yes.
So right off the bat, a very odd and very interesting category. What else do we have?
But speaking about Lego Movie Fast, the song from the Lego Movie, Everything is Awesome, was performed live at the Oscars.
Yes.
Did you enjoy the performance? Did you enjoy the song?
It didn't have the same feel to it because it was live. I think they tried to make it a lot of fun with having Batman there and a bunch of the people in the outfits, but overall, it didn't really stand out to me.
Okay. So moving on to the next category, let's just talk about achievement in costume design. And that went to the Grand Budapest Hotel. Melina Carnero won for that. Best documentary feature, Citizen 4.
Which we both thought was going to be easily the favorite going into that one.
Best documentary short subject, Crisis Hotline, Veterans Press 1. took that.
So, besides those, we have achievement in production design. And when it comes to production design, it's kind of the basis of what a film looks like. We have the Grand Budapest Hotel, The Imitation Game, Interstellar, and Into the Woods, and Mr. Turner. Surprisingly, the category to take this award home was the Grand Budapest Hotel. We'll talk a lot more about this movie as the night goes on, but that was the winner for Best Production Design. The achievement for original score, we have Grand Budapest Hotel, The Imitation Game, Interstellar, Mr. Turner, and The Theory of Everything. Like a lot of the awards tonight, very different than me and Louis' prediction. The majority of the awards, the bigger awards tonight, Louis and I agreed upon a lot of them, this being one of them, thinking The Theory of Everything would take this award home, and it didn't. The Grand Budapest Hotel actually took that award home, which was quite shocking in itself. The achievement in makeup and hairstyling, we had Foxcatcher, the Grand Budapest Hotel, and Guardians of the Galaxy. Big shocker of the night, it was actually the Grand Budapest Hotel. So already in those three categories, the Grand Budapest Hotel has already taken those awards home. We have the achievement in film editing. We have American Sniper, Boyhood, the Grand Budapest Hotel, Whiplash, and The Imitation Game. Another major shocker, and one that I'm really, really proud of, the film that no one, I don't think, expected to take this home. It was not Boyhood. It was not the Grand Budapest Hotel. Instead, it was Tom Cruise for Whiplash, a film that I haven't gotten to talk much about yet, but what I will say is that it was incredible. One of my favorite movies of the year, I will say that, and I am super glad that it actually won this achievement because it is a very, very prestigious one at that. Last, we have the best foreign film of the year. We have Ida, Levithian, Tangerines, Timbuktu, and Wild Tales. Louis and I had differences as he decided that Ida would take home the award, and I thought Levithian, the one that took home the Golden Globe. Actually, Louis was right here. Ida won the Academy Award for Best Foreign Language Film of the Year. If you haven't seen this movie, it is available on Netflix. Josh Bell and I talked great lengths about this movie and how the use of black and white was an incredible way of storytelling, how we both really appreciated that film, and how it was one of our favorite films. So, my fault for not going with the film that I saw and appreciated. Now, this last category that I'm talking about before Louis goes on, is actually gave me my favorite moment, probably my favorite moment of the awards, one of, but probably the favorite, and that was the achievement for original song. We had Everything Is Awesome from the Lego Movie, Glory from Selma, Grateful from Beyond the Lights, I'm Not Gonna Miss You from Glenn Campbell, I'll Be Me, and then we have Lost Stars. As Louis asked me before, Everything Is Awesome was a fun little set piece. I'm Not Gonna Miss You was a little bit of an emotional set piece because Glenn Campbell's health isn't that great right now. Lost in the Stars, James Shue, a friend of ours, we talked about him a lot. Superman, really enjoyed this song, so it was just fun to kind of hear that. Grateful, didn't really give an impression to me. However, the winner of the award was Glory, which came from John Legend and Common, and I think gave the best performance best moment of the awards. It was a very powerful and moving segment. It was a very touching feeling going through. You could see a lot of the performers were crying. Chris Pine was crying. David Oyelowo was crying. A lot of emotion came out of those two gentlemen who were singing and partaking in that song. The setup was really beautiful as it kind of recreated the bridge in Selma. A very standstill, beautiful moment, and probably my favorite moment of the Academy Awards, and that was Glory, which gave Selma its only win for the evening.
Yeah, that was a terrific performance. Common and John Legend did an amazing job, and the set design that they had was definitely amazing, and the backing vocals of the group of men and women that they got to join them was equally powerful.
It was a moment that would give you chills easily. It was a very powerful moment. And
their speech was just as great and more relevant than ever right now. Moving on to other categories of the year. Best Animated Short, went to Feast, which we both
Predicted, yeah.
predicted. Best live action short film went to The Phone Call. Best achievement in sound editing went to American Sniper. Best achievement in sound mixing went to Whiplash, which was another surprise. Whiplash feels like it's the film, a little engine that could.
Yeah.
And any win it picks up is great because it's a phenomenal movie that we both love. And it was a great, oh, cool, look at this, good for them.
Most people were probably thinking that movie was going home with only one award, and surprisingly, it took more than just these two that we've already mentioned, editing and sound editing.
Best achievement in visual effects, of course, went to Interstellar because, you can't deny that film, the amazing job it did creating that universe. And then on to best adapted screenplay, The Intimidation Game, written by Graham Moore, won. And that has to be probably my favorite moment of the Oscar. His speech was very moving, very inspiring. And this is like why we watch the Oscars, for certain moments like this. Because you never know who's watching the Oscars that could go on and create that same type of speech years from now.
And Graham Moore did probably have my favorite speech of the night, as he talked about being weird and being different and how he was almost committed suicide at a very young age because the way he felt. And then by the end of the speech, though, he encouraged people to be different and stay weird, stay different, because one day you will be appreciative for your weirdness. I thought that was a very powerful speech.
Very emotional. On to original screenplay. And this was somewhat of an upset just because going into it, many people believed that Wes Anderson was going to get his first Oscar win for The Grand Budapest Hotel. Jake predicted The Boyhood. Richard Linklater would take home odds. But in actuality, Birdman won, written by Alejandro Inarritu and his other crew. And that was very surprising for me.
And especially this moment. This was the moment that we knew that the Oscars were not as predictable as we thought. This is when things kind of took a turn and we said, wait, maybe it's not as easy as that we thought. Not saying that me and Louis ever thought that... never thought that these movies weren't important or saying that they're not worthy, but usually Oscars do have a kind of a front runner. Front runners still do win, but it was a chain of events where we said, okay, maybe things are going to be a little bit different here. To quickly change up its pace, we have achievement in cinematography. This one, Louis and I both predicted. I think everyone saw this one coming, and that was Birdman, or The Unexpected Virtue of Ignorance. He won for the second year in a row with Gravity last year. Emmanuel Lubezki, an incredible win, an incredible cinematographer. I'm sure this will not be his last award. We also have the best performance by an actress in a supporting role. We had Meryl Streep for Into the Woods, Emma Stone in Birdman, Keira Knightley in The Imitation Game, Laura Dern for Wild, and again, a prediction that me and Louis both gave and won was Patricia Arquette for Boyhood. Surprisingly, without trying to give too much away, this would be only one of the few awards that Boyhood would walk away with. We have Best Performance by an Actor in a Supporting Role. We have Robert Duvall for The Judge, Ethan Hawke for Boyhood, Edward Norton for Birdman, or The Unexpected Virtue of Ignorance, Mark Ruffalo for Foxcatcher, and J.K. Simmons for Whiplash. This category would actually go to J.K. Simmons for his amazing performance in Whiplash and give Whiplash its third and final award for the evening. Well-deserved, incredible film. I can't recommend enough. It's going to hit shelves this week on Tuesday, DVD and Blu-ray. Make sure to go pick it up if you've not seen it already. It is an automatic buy. You don't even need to Redbox it.
And that definitely capped off a dominant run for J.K. Simmons this award season. He didn't lose any. He won all the major awards along the way, capped it off for an Oscar, well-deserved. And finally, he got his Oscar.
Yes. Achievement in directing. We have Birdman, or The Unexpected Virtue of Ignorance, Alejandro Inarritu. We have Boyhood, Richard Linklater. Foxcatcher, Bennett Miller. The Grand Budapest Hotel, Wes Anderson. And The Imitation Game, Morton Taldum. And though many people thought that Richard Linklater's journey into 12 years of filmmaking would earn him a Best Director award, it did not. It actually went to, I believe, the second or third Spanish filmmaker in the history of the Academy Awards. I know there was many more nominated, but I'm pretty sure only 2 or 3 have won.
Well, last year, Alfonso Cuarón won for Gravity.
And I don't think he was the first. I believe he was the second. So I'm assuming this is the third. So if if I am mistaken, I apologize, but I'm pretty sure that's the, if not close estimate number. And that went to Alejandro Iñárritu for Birdman, The Unexpected Virtue of Ignorance.
And this is pretty interesting to know. In the previous year, and especially years, and pretty much most recently, they split the Best Picture and Best Director awards. Whoever won Best Director, their picture did not go on to win Best Picture. So, that set up, okay, here we go.
Because last year, the Best Director did not go
Gravity didn't
win Best Picture, but it won Best Director. 12 Years a Slave won Best. Steve McQueen won Best film.
Ben Affleck with Argo. He didn't get nominated.
That year, Best Director was...
That's not the point. The point is... Life of Pi, probably.
Oh, yeah.
Angus Lee.
Ang Lee.
Ang Lee, excuse me. I don't know why I said Angus.
Is that all?
No, well, there's more. I'm not going to list all of them, but more recent years, that's the trend. They've split Best Director and Best Picture.
And usually there's a lot of different types of ways that the categories have gone in a certain way. But again, this year did not come off as well as we expected to. That leaves us 3 categories. The best performance by an actress in a leading role went from Marion Cotillard for 2 Days and One Night, Felicity Jones in The Theory of Everything, Julianne Moore for Still Alice, Rosamund Pike for Gone Girl, and Reese Witherspoon in Wild. Louis and I actually both... This was one of the ones that stayed predictable, was predictable, and followed through. As Julianne Moore.
And Julianne Moore took home the Best Actress. And I'm really excited for her. She's been an amazing actress pretty much her entire career and been nominated at least 3-4 times before. So for her picking up her first Oscar was well deserved. She gave an amazing performance to Alice that makes you feel for her, and the character was wonderful, and I'm extremely happy for her tonight.
I unfortunately still have not seen Still Alice.
Yeah, definitely check it out. Still Alice is a very good flick.
I do want to see it, but she's also been one that has kind of dominated the races for this award. Now, what I think was honestly the toughest category of the year, because there are so many great competitors, it actually could have gone in several different directions, and that is performance by an actor in a leading role. First, we have Steve Carell in Foxcatcher, Bradley Cooper for American Sniper, Benedict Cumberbatch for The Imitation Game, Michael Keaton for Birdman, The Unexpected Virtue of Ignorance, and Eddie Redmayne for The Theory of Everything. Louis and I both predicted this, and it was well-deserved to what I think was one of the best performances in a very long time, and just obviously this year. It was super amazing. Eddie Redmayne's performance in The Theory of Everything, portraying Stephen Hawking. I mean, what a performance. He was very excited. He looked very, very in the moment and happy that he won the award. I'm expecting great things for them. I'm going to ignore the fact that Jupiter Ascending even happened. I'm going to try to forget that. Even though that I've been hearing a lot of funny remarks about that people said that Jupiter Ascending was so bad that Eddie Redmayne knew that he had to go get so over the top to save the movie. Mm-hmm. Like, if it was going that way, he's just going to go completely over the top. So, maybe. That makes sense. Yeah, so I heard some funny comments about that, but overall, I'm really excited to see what he'll bring to future films. I think he's an incredible actor. I mean, completely nailed this movie in ways that I can't even describe. Another one of, one that you'll probably hear a lot about next week at the Chasing Cinema Choice Awards, where Louis and I will choose our favorite films and talk about what we think in our categories, which are a little bit different. And finally, I'll let Louis have the honor of reading the Best Picture category.
Oh, no. Okay, so to refresh everyone's memory, the nominees were American Sniper, Birdman or the Unexpected Virtue of Ignorance, and that's a great title. Let's take a side note. Jacob loves long titles, and this is a long title. And not many films have long titles anymore, but that's definitely one of them.
Yes, even though it's not referenced by that.
No, it's kind of sad. Boyhood, The Grand Budapest Hotel, The Imitation Game, Selma, The Theory of Everything, and Whiplash. And surprisingly, to some,
that most people would have assumed. I think the majority of people would assume that award would have gone to Boyhood and Richard Linklater, as the film only won one award this evening. Louis, who took home Best Picture?
Birdman or the Unexpected Virtue of Ignorance. And that's crazy, because I know we've been saying that this Oscars was very close in many categories, and it came down to two films, particularly in most categories, Birdman or Boyhood. And coming into this, I was torn, between Boyhood and Birdman in a lot of categories, and I did ultimately end up picking Boyhood because I thought that was maybe the safest pick, just because of this ambition in the film. But I thought the Academy would honor these films and pretty much split the difference. I did not expect Birdman to dominate the Oscars this much as it did this year. It's crazy.
Best cinematography, best
directing, best screenplay,
best picture.
It dominated, and rightfully so. I was a big fan of Birdman. I liked it more than Boyhood.
He liked it more than I did.
I liked it more than Jake did.
We'll get more into that next week.
Yeah.
A complete. I liked it because it wasn't as predictable as the Oscars usually are. Though I think Louis and I gave a great value and effort. There was a major split this year between predictions, as we also gave our lowest prediction hits ever. The top only being 17, and thus giving the title to the reoccurring champion, Mr. Louis Corzolo, as he predicted 17 of these categories correctly. Unfortunately, I was far off with a minor 11 categories. I think this year, a lot of these kind of, Birdman really was my destroyer. Birdman and the Grand Budapest Hotel really kind of took me.
Dug yourself a grave.
Yeah, they those films, the minor Grand Budapest Hotels for production design and costumes and all these wins, and then the short films that we did not see all added up and ended up being very well my demise. So 11 out of the 20 plus is not my most proud number. Usually it's only a difference of 2 or 3, and we're both usually over the 20 mark. So this has been a very, very tough Oscars to predict.
They've always said three-peating, the third one is always the hardest of the three-peat. And it's true. I put up a valiant effort. I took down my competitor, and I just promised this year I'm going to stay committed.
Well, I have to make an announcement. The fact that this will be the last time you ever beat me in this game, as next year I will be the reigning, defending champion after the Academy Awards.
I hope so.
But until
it's
then,
getting lonely on the top of the mountain.
Until then, we have another year and plenty of movies, around 500-600, or if not more of them to watch. 2 a week. We're usually at that 2 a week pace of new films, not minus films that we watch at home and stuff. But 2 a week, that's how many weeks? 52. Well, that's not 600, but I was close.
Were you?
Yeah, about. Because I'll probably watch 600. Yeah. Easy. Not maybe, easy, but probably. Yeah.
Somewhat.
What is that? I have to watch. No, I couldn't get to 600. That's like 2 a day.
Well, you watch 104 2 times a week.
Huh?
you do 2 films per week.
Yeah.
You said it's 52 weeks in the year.
Yeah.
That'd be 104 films.
New films.
Yeah. That'd be 104 films.
So I have to watch movies.
So you have to need close to 500.
Yeah, I need like 5 a week.
Give or take.
I can do that, though. I usually hit about 4. So that's actually not as shocking as it sounds.
Let's keep track starting now.
Well, I am keeping track. It's just, I haven't gotten much into watching, because I'm still watching 2014 things. I haven't gotten much time to watch new stuff, but we will. Don't worry about it. Make sure you tune in for our biggest podcast of the year. It is always our biggest rated and ones that people comment and talk about the most, and that is the Chasing Cinema Choice Awards, where Louis and I, again, sit down and create our own categories, our own nominees, and pick our own category winners. We talk about our favorite movies. You'll hear, to give a clear, concise message, we'll also talk about kind of like our favorite films of the year, because we do different categories, and, some categories are more deserving than others, so that might not necessarily shine in our list, but I will name off my top 10 list. I'm sure Louis will do the same. That's going to wrap it up for the Oscar Awards, which is quite nice. Birdman, congratulations to you. Congratulations to Inarritu for the win. I'm very, very, very proud of the awards. I also wanted to mention, I forgot to talk about earlier, Patricia Arquette's speech also was pretty powerful, as she talked about, equality for women in pay, and that was a very great moment too. But still, I believe my favorite was the moment of glory. Did you have a favorite moment tonight?
Well, I mentioned the Graham Moore speech.
Yes, being
solid.
All right, guys, that's going to wrap it up for this week. Louis and I are tired, and we need some time to meditate.
Before we sign off,
yes.
Just imagine a nice place where you can watch the Oscars in 35 minutes.
This is true. We did that show in 3.5 hours less than they did.
Can you imagine?
Oh, and we're far more entertaining.
I would hope so.
Maybe not as entertaining.
No,
but we're still
you can't hate on NPH.
It's true. NPH did a great job.
Yeah, he always does.
It's just tough. They don't get much opportunity.
Even the spoof of Birdman, he was great with.
Yeah, that was good.
And then having
I should have known then.
mother.
I should have known then. When he was spoofing Birdman, I should have known.
Well, then again, but you can't really spoof Boyhood, because you can't. Like, how are you going to capture 12 years?
You just get a kid who looks like Neil Patrick Harris walk on stage. And then each category, he gets older and older.
That'd be funny, but they should have done that from the beginning.
That's what I'm saying.
I said it like the musical number. They said
we should be writing the Oscars.
That'd be really funny. They blew it.
Ladies and gentlemen, tune in next week for the Chasing Cinema Choice Awards. Again, make sure to hit that subscribe button on iTunes. That way, each and every Sunday when this podcast comes out, it is automatically technically it comes out on Monday. Delivered to your iTunes. You can put it on your iPad, your iPod, your iPhone, your Samsung, your HTC, whatever device you listen to our podcast on. If you don't have iTunes and you don't want to play with any of that business, make sure to go to youtube.com/Chasing Cinema, because all of our podcasts are there as well. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, my name is Jacob Toronto. I am joined by my loyal, faithful co-host / best friend,
Louis Carzola.
And please continue chasing cinema.